Hi, I'm Mike Steven and this is Gear Up. Today we're going to talk about hiking and just maybe some of the things that you should bring. Some things are going to make your hike more comfortable. Some things are just plain old a good idea to carry with you. I'm not going to say that what I mention here is a complete list, but it's a few things to think about. So first off, when you go hiking, you're probably going to want a backpack of some sort, whether it be kind of a smaller day pack like this or a bigger pack. The packs these days are quite technical. They've got lots of cool features on them. They're quite breathable in terms of being on your back. This material is designed for air to flow through it. They've got like nice hip belt pockets that you can throw either your snacks or your phone or just quick access stuff into. They got loops for holding your poles. They've got kind of bigger areas in here to store most of your gear. They got areas for drying out gear, so you can just slide it down in there and dry out some gear, put some big water bottles, stuff like that in there. So the packs, you can get almost any pack to suit any type of trip. So I would probably be choosing a pack that makes sense for the size of hike that you're going on. If you're going multi-day, you're going to need probably a 60-70 liter bag. If you're going for a single day trip, you're probably going to be a 30 liter bag or smaller. And just so people know, like, that's how bags are measured in liters. So it's how many liters of water in essence would take up the space in the bag. So that is the industry standard of measuring the size of backpacks. The next thing that you're going to want to carry with you is some water. Water's one of those things that we can't do without, and depending on where you're hiking, there may not be fresh water available. And especially if you're not hiking, if you're not from the area, there could be bacteria or something in the water sources that are out there that you may not want to drink it because of. So either bring water with you or bring some sort of filtering device. There's lots of those out on the market now too, to be able to filter majority of the bacteria out of the water so that you can drink it safely. Even if you're not planning on eating, what I always say is plan to spend the night. Carry everything in your backpack that if you had to spend the night, you could. Because no, nobody's planning on things going wrong, but sometimes they do, and sometimes you may have to spend the night in the backcountry, and it gets cold quick in the mountains. So on that note, I usually carry a jacket with me, a waterproof, breathable jacket, so that it basically what it does is it stops the wind from penetrating into your body core and pulling the heat off the core of your body. So if you can put that on, if it's windy or rainy out, it'll amplify whatever garments you're wearing for insulation. It'll amplify that and keep all that heat in and keep the elements off you. A toque or a hat is a really good idea along those things. Most of your heat is lost through the top of your head, especially for a guy like me. So a hat or a toque make a big difference. A, if the weather switches, or B, if you have to spend the night. One thing to consider that we live kind of right between the Rocky Mountains and the Purcell Mountains, so we definitely get mountain type weather. And one of the things that you'll learn quickly when you're hiking is that weather can change really fast out in the backcountry. It can go from a gorgeous bluebird day where you're sweating to a very, very cold day. I've been snowed on Canada Day on a hike in the Rockies. So stuff like that is fairly common. So a little bit of food, a little bit of water, enough to get you through 24 to 48 hours is probably a good idea. Next up, there's some, say, safety type things. One of the animals that you got to be aware of is bears. There's two types of bears that you'll run into out there: black bears and grizzly bears. A lot of people like to carry bear spray. It's a cylinder like this and works kind of like a fire extinguisher. It shoots out some really, really hot, spicy pepper stuff and deters the bear from charging. Know how to use it. Just carrying it doesn't do the trick. Knowing how to use it, knowing that there's a safety on it, knowing that it comes with a zip tie that should be removed before you go hiking, and then there's a safety clip after that, then there's the trigger pull. Also know the distance how close the bear should be before you discharge this, because you don't want to, it's not a long range shot. It's a more closer range shot, and it's a last resort for sure. Along those same lines, man, a small first aid kit. You don't need a big one. A small first aid kit will take care of some of the smaller injuries that are out there, and you can really help yourself out by carrying a first aid kit. And not only can you help yourself out, but you might be able to help others out there in the backcountry, because the rule out there is kind of to take care of each other for sure. Another thing along the lines of technology, there's things like inReaches and spots. These are satellite-based location systems and communication systems. That's probably one of your most effective things. You've got anywhere from being able to hit a button and send an SOS so that it relays to your family members that you've set up before, or or directly into search and rescue. Basically the status of what's going on, either like a SOS single button, or there are some fancier ones that you can text on. There's even satellite phones that are available these days. Obviously they go up in price the more features you have on them, but satellite-based communication is a great thing to have with you if you can afford to. It's one of the more expensive things because not only do you have to buy the item, but you also have to buy a plan. So it can be a little bit more expensive, but one of those worthwhile things for sure. Other things that a lot of people are really liking these days, and it's definitely something that's changed since I was younger, is hiking poles. You're working your legs all the time in the backcountry, but what about letting your upper body help you out and letting your upper body stabilize you? You get up to the top of a long hike and it's gotten wet and slippery. Having 2 legs plus 2 poles on the ground can give you a lot more stability out there. There's all sorts of different types of poles out there. A couple things that I'll recommend is choose a style of pole that has a flip lock. That's like that. It's like a quick release on a bike seat or whatever. The reason why is because if anything happens to this, you can see what's going on. The style that you twist, the mechanism's on the inside of the pole. So if it fails, you've got a bit of a problem in the backcountry. Whereas having something a little bit more rugged like this is nice. They shrink up nice and small so that you can throw them on your pack when you're not using them or don't feel like using them. A lot will come with smaller hiking baskets, bigger snow baskets, and you can even get some add-ons like these guys that go over and turn it into like a soft, grippy rubber tip. One thing that I find is that these carbide tips that are on the poles, if they're placed properly in rock, they add quite a bit of, they are quite grippy. They'll actually be more grippy than something like this, the rubber boot. Whereas if you're just placing the poles randomly, this is good. If you're going to place the poles intentionally, the carbide tip will actually give you a little bit more stability. There's also all sorts of things going on in the top of poles these days. There's some poles that have shock absorption, because if you can kind of picture hiking along a rocky ridge, jamming an aluminum pole into rock all day long, it can get a little bit tiresome on the wrists and whatnot. So there is poles with a suspension built into them so that they can just actually absorb some of that impact. Things like cork handles, just to be a little bit more comfortable when you get sweaty on cork handles. They feel a lot nicer than sweating on a plastic or a rubber handle. But hiking poles, the 2 big things that I'll say about them is, 1, they'll give you a little bit more stability out there, and 2, you can make your upper body do some of the work. You can actually push off and take some of the load off your legs, let you last a little bit longer out there on those hikes. Okay. One little odds and end that I kind of like to carry with me is, if your pack isn't waterproof, is this is just a rain cover for your bag, so that you have all this gear in your backpack to keep you warm and keep you protected in the backcountry and fed. It's a good idea to keep all that stuff dry. So if it's really, if a rain just comes down like crazy, a torrential downpour, it's nice to have, and it's quite small and can be used for other things, which is quite good. Other than that, there's definitely some protocols to follow. When you go into the backcountry, you should always be letting people know where you're going, when you're planning on coming back, giving them your game plan of how long you're going to be out and when you're going to be back and all that important information. And you should leave it with multiple people. These should also be people that you trust, people that are solid, people that are in the area, and people that have some hiking experience. Other than that, planning is really important. A lot of people just kind of wing it out there, whereas looking at a topo map or looking on Google Earth before you go and getting a little bit of a lay of the land is a really, really good idea before you go out on a hike, especially if you're taking off deeper into the mountains. If you kind of have a little bit of knowledge of the land and where the drainages go and all that kind of stuff, it can really help you out there. These are the types of things I like to carry. The extra things I like to carry, I do usually carry a knife of some sort. It can be used for all sorts of things, anywhere from building a fire to cutting rope that you need to tie stuff up with. Rope is another good thing to bring with you, a little bit of rope, a little bit of duct tape. Never bad to throw in your bag. Other than that, I can't think of a lot of other things that you can throw in your bag, but you know what? Consult your friends, consult other people that have done this a lot, because the community shares a lot, and how you learn little tricks out there is by talking to each other. Like when you're winter camping, winter hiking, one of the neat tricks that somebody taught me that I never thought of was bring a thermos of Gatorade. Even though you're not planning on drinking the Gatorade or the tea or whatever hot, you can if you want. You can actually put snow in the cup and then pour the hot liquid over top, and it doubles your water, the amount of water. So you only have to carry half as much water as you plan to. So there's all sorts of little secrets out there that you can learn from others and by getting out there. If you have any questions about hiking and stuff like that, you can pop into your local shops. They'll try to help you out the best they can, and I'm sure they'll be able to point you in the right direction. Thanks for watching. This has been Gear Up. I'm Mike Steele.